In the city of Ashenlight, silence had become the loudest sound. Streets stretched endlessly, gray and hollow, the echoes of footsteps bouncing off buildings that had long forgotten the laughter of children. The government had outlawed stories decades ago. Books, once treasured, were now relics of a forgotten age, burned or buried beneath layers of concrete and ash. The people moved like shadows, heads down, words swallowed before they could leave the lips. The air itself seemed to absorb joy, replacing it with a dull monotony that settled deep into the bones. Even the sun seemed reluctant to shine, casting a pale, watery light over the endless towers of glass and steel. Among these silent figures walked Maya, 16, with a heart too loud for the world around her. She had learned early on that curiosity was dangerous, but some questions refused to be ignored. Why did people walk in silence? Why did the city feel so empty? And most importantly, where did the stories go? Maya had never known a world filled with stories. Her earliest memories were of gray streets and hushed conversations. Even bedtime, which once promised adventure in whispered fairy tales, had become a ritual of monotony. She remembered sneaking glances at her grandmother's old journal, hidden in a loose brick behind the fireplace. Though the pages were worn and brittle, filled with scribbles she could barely read, they had smelled of ink and secrets, a scent that had awakened something deep within her. Tonight, like every other night she dared, Maya slipped out of her small apartment, past the blinking drones that patrolled the streets, past the watchful eyes that recorded every move. Her shoes whispered against the pavement as she made her way to the abandoned train station at the edge of the city, a place where no one dared linger. Every step was measured, deliberate, as though even the slightest noise could summon consequences she could not imagine. Yet with every cautious step, a thrill coursed through her veins. Freedom, even fleeting, had a taste she could not resist. The city was a monument to order and fear. Posters lined the walls, proclamations of the government's wisdom. Stories are dangerous. Silence is safety. Drones hovered silently, their lenses scanning, recording, judging. Maya passed beneath them, holding her breath as their mechanical eyes tracked her movement. A sense of anticipation coiled in her chest. She had almost convinced herself that somewhere, behind these walls of concrete and glass, a secret waited. A secret no one dared speak of aloud. The abandoned station rose from the darkness like a forgotten relic. Rusted tracks disappeared into shadows so deep that Maya's imagination filled them with phantom trains. Engines chugging along with ghosts of passengers long gone. Graffiti covered the walls, faded, peeling messages from decades past, fragments of rebellion or joy, impossible to tell. Read, one word seemed to whisper from a cracked brick. Remember, another urged from a splintered wall. Maya's fingers traced the words, feeling a strange warmth beneath the rough surface. A memory stirred in her mind. Her grandmother's stories, once told under dim lamplight, now vivid in flashes of color and sound. She paused to inhale the night air, which carried hints of rain and dust. Somewhere in the distance, a cat mewed, sharp and solitary, cutting through the silence. Maya smiled faintly. Even in this city of shadows, life persisted. Quiet, hidden, waiting. Her gaze fell upon a pile of debris at the far end of the platform, and there, half buried beneath rubble, she saw it. A heavy iron door. Its surface was dull and dark, yet something about it felt alive. A pulse seemed to emanate from the metal itself, faint but insistent, as though it were aware of her presence. Maya approached cautiously. Every step echoed in the cavernous station, her heartbeat drumming in her ears. She crouched, brushing away layers of dust and brick, revealing intricate carvings etched into the door. The lines were delicate, swirling into patterns she had never seen. A script she did not recognize yet somehow felt familiar. Her fingers traced the symbols and a shiver ran through her spine. A whisper, almost imperceptible, seemed to float from the cracks. Read. Remember. Her mind raced. Could this be real? Could the stories, the forbidden worlds of imagination, have survived? Maya swallowed hard, the lump in her throat heavy. She pressed her palm against the cold metal, and the door vibrated faintly beneath her touch, as if acknowledging her presence. For the first time in her life, she felt a connection to something larger than the silent city around her. A spark of hope ignited in her chest, small but stubborn. She crouched to peer through a small gap at the bottom of the door. Darkness stretched beyond, deep and endless, and yet she felt no fear, only curiosity, pure and unrelenting. Her mind's eye imagined shelves lined with books, their spines etched with golden letters, stories waiting to be told, waiting for her voice to awaken them. The thought made her breath catch. Maya hesitated, torn between caution and desire. She thought of the warnings of the drones and patrols, of the consequences of discovery. But the whisper persisted, threading through her mind. Read. Remember. Her hand trembled, but she pushed forward, determination outweighing fear. She took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of cold iron and dust, the scent of history and secrets long buried. And then, with a push of all her strength, the door groaned, protesting decades of neglect. It swung slowly open, revealing a narrow staircase, spiraling downward into darkness. A faint smell of parchment and old ink drifted upward, making her eyes widen. Somewhere deep below, a soft hum seemed to vibrate in the air, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Maya stepped forward, her heart hammering, each step echoing softly. The walls of the stairwell were lined with more carvings, symbols glowing faintly in the dim light, as though recognizing her presence. She ran her hands along the stone, feeling warmth where the carvings pressed against her palm. Whispers danced at the edges of her hearing, fragments of sentences she could almost understand, stories of heroism, sorrow, love, rebellion. They teased her imagination, tugged at her curiosity. At the bottom of the staircase, the darkness opened into a vast chamber. Her eyes adjusted slowly, revealing towering shelves filled with books of every shape and size, their pages yellowed and spines cracked. Dust motes danced in the faint light, swirling like tiny stars. The chamber seemed alive, waiting for her. Maya's breath caught. She had found it, the last library, a sanctuary of stories, a rebellion of imagination hidden beneath the city of silence. For a long moment, she simply stood, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of it. Her fingers itched to touch the books, to feel the paper beneath her hands, to hear the words aloud. The hum grew louder, vibrating through her bones, as if the stories themselves were greeting her. The air smelled of old paper, ink, and possibility. A warmth filled her chest, a thrill she had never known. And yet, even in this moment of wonder, a shadow lingered at the edges of the chamber. Something moved silently between the shelves, watching. Maya froze, her heart skipping a beat. Was it a guardian or a threat? She could not tell. The library itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her next move. Maya stepped cautiously forward, brushing her fingers along the spines, reading the titles in awe. Tales of the Sky Wanderer, Songs of Forgotten Heroes, Legends of the Lost City. Each one whispered a promise, a hint of worlds waiting to be brought to life. Her pulse quickened. She realized, in that moment, that she was no longer merely a girl wandering through a city of silence. She was a storyteller, a keeper of what had been lost, a spark that might ignite the fire of imagination once more. The city above carried on in its muted rhythm, unaware. But here, beneath the surface, something had awoken, a world forgotten, waiting to be remembered. And Maya, trembling and exhilarated, knew that her life and the lives of all who would dare to listen would never be the same again.